Up until now, if you wanted to buy a Taycan here in the US, you had two versions to choose from. You had the traditional Taycan sedan or the awesome off-road wagon called the Cross Turismo. However, I always wanted to see what a proper electric super wagon would look like from Porsche, and today that wish has been granted with the reveal of the absolutely stunning GTS Sport Turismo. And in this video, we're gonna have a look at the spec and tech of this piece of art, and then of course jump into Photoshop and compare the design changes to the Cross Turismo and analyze all the details that separates the two. And of course, for this video I had to wear my Porsche 911 painting t-shirt, which you can get at the sketchmonkey.com. Now, just like other GTS models, this is positioned right between the Taycan 4S and the Turbo. In most cases, I would personally go for the GTS model since I feel it's a perfect balance between performance, design, and also comfort. On top of that, since it sits in the middle of the lineup, the pricing is in the middle as well. More on that in a minute when we talk about the price of this thing. It's powered by two electric motors, which puts out a total of 590 horsepower, and it is equipped with a launch control. This power number places it directly between the 462 horsepower Taycan 4S and the 670 horsepower Taycan Turbo, as we're used to seeing with other GTS models in the Porsche lineup. And this gives the Taycan GTS a 0 to 60 time in just 3.5 seconds. Under the beautifully sculpted body here, we find the same 93.4 kilowatt hour battery as in other Taycan models. We don't have any official range numbers here from Porsche for the Taycan GTS, but you can expect it to be about 220 to 230 miles of range, with the possibility to charge from 5 to 80% in just 22.5 minutes, which is not bad, but it's also becoming more standard now to have these 5 to 80% super quick charging rates. As mentioned before, I'm a big fan of Porsche's GTS models because while they're not the top of the line turbos, they always do a fantastic job just separating themselves from the base model, and the GTS Sport Turismo here is definitely no different. So it's not just the looks here that's different from the 4S. You also have larger brakes with 390 millimeters rotors up front compared to the 4S 360 millimeter rotors. And even though it's an all-electric car, I really like the way Porsche Taycan sounds, and the sound here for the GTS is actually different from the one you have in the 4S. You can order both the regular 2022 Porsche Taycan GTS and the wagon GTS Sport Turismo right now, with deliveries here in the US scheduled for the spring of next year. The Taycan GTS costs $132,750, but if you're like me and want to go for the wagon, the GTS Sport Turismo, that's gonna bump the price up by about $2,000 to $134,650. Now let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at what actually changed on the GTS and comparing it to the Cross Turismo in front, side, and rear view. So here up top we have the 2022 GTS Sport Turismo, and I think as I said, all GTS models from Porsche, I think they do such a fantastic job of blending you know it's not a base model when you see a GTS model. It sits right in the middle in performance, in pricing, and in design as well. And I think this looks exactly like what I would expect a Taycan GTS to look like. We do have some tint in the inside of the headlights here, and I do love this new, it's not new anymore, but you have this traditional DNA of Porsche with the 4 LEDs in each corner here of the headlights, which creates a very, very strong identity. How important that is, especially when you see the cars at night. You still want to have the car and your manufacturer, your brand, be identified at night, and I think Porsche does a good job with that with these 4 indicators in each corner. Now, comparing it to the Cross Turismo down here, by the way, I think this is such a cool idea, and an idea that I would never expect Porsche to create with the Cross Turismo here with the Taycan. It's a lifted electric super wagon basically, and I think it's a cool approach to showing what you can actually do with an EV platform. So looking at the differences here, we have more of a black piece sticking out further here on the GTS. If you look at the front view of the Cross Turismo, it's a smaller black piece here. It's still there, but it's more pronounced on the GTS, and as I said, there is some darker black tinting inside inside the headlights. You can't really see it here because the light is on, but it's there. And looking at the plastic pieces or the carbon fiber or whatever this is down here, the GTS has a more of a black trim, while the Cross Turismo looks, at least from this view right here, looks like it's more grayish. But I do love these wheels on the Cross Turismo, and they do have another set of wheels which I'm gonna show you when you look at the rear view, which is probably my favorite Taycan wheels. That if I could have those wheels on the GTS, that would probably be a perfect match for me. However, I do also love these black wheels, and I think when you think about Porsche GTSs, it's a strong color. It's not gray, black, or white or something. It's a very saturated color mixed with black trim pieces. I think that's, to me at least, when I think about Porsche GTS, whether it be the Taycan or 911 or whatever, it's always those two features: black trim pieces mixed with a very strong saturated color, just like we have right here. Another thing that I love with the Cross Turismo down here is these roof rails right here. It's such a purposeful design, this whole thing. And you also have, of course, looking at the wheel arches right here, you have these black pieces covering up for whatever off-road craziness you're gonna be doing in the Cross Turismo. You have more of a plastic cladding on the Cross Turismo, which is totally fine because it's intended to go a little bit more off-road, definitely more than the GTS up here. And that requires a little bit more protection right there. So let's have a look at the rear view before we look at the most important view, which is the side view right here. Looking at the rear view, I think this up here, this is the money shot of the GTS. It looks so good from this specific angle. Just look at how beautifully sculpted these rear fenders are. Super beefy. You still have the 911 shape to them, even though it is a wagon here. And it's a very organic shape, but at the same time you have a few key sharp lines. And I love the graphics, how this light bar is integrated here in the rear end with this beautiful chamfer right here, which of course is on all Taycan models right here as well. You can see on the Cross Turismo you have the same chamfer right here, and this color is just super crazy, this green. These are the wheels that I was talking about. I really love the way these looks, but I also noticed when I compared the side view and the rear view with the front view of the Taycan Cross Turismo here, this is actually not the same car as this one, because as you can see right here, this has roof rails. It also has, what was the difference? This little piece right here, this wing right here, doesn't exist on the rear view right here. You can see that this is more in line with what the GTS actually looks like. The only difference I can see here is of course the ride height, and then you have the roof spoiler on the GTS. Obviously it's a GTS, more body colored pieces on every GTS model, so this is exactly in line with what we've seen from GTS models in the past. And that down here on the Cross Turismo is blacked out for a more, I guess, rugged look. And also you have the wheel arches here being black, but we don't have this little fender here or wing, and we don't have the roof rails. So I think I'm not sure, but probably some of you in the comments will let me know, but I think this is some sort of additional package that you might add on the Cross Turismo. You also have this wing in the front here, this wing right here, and the roof rails are things that I don't see here in this model, and I don't see in the side view as well. So I just want to focus in on this view right here, because I think this is the most beautiful view of this car, and of most cars when I think about it. This is a 3/4 rear view, because that gives us the view of this beautiful hip right here going into this beautiful light bar that's integrated so well in the line flow of the car. And then we have a couple of sharp lines here that kind of breaks up the smoothness in the Porsche, and you have this key line down here as well going into the rear bumper right here. It's just a beautiful design, and I'm really happy that Porsche decided to go with the wagon style for the Taycan. So let's, last but not least, have a look at the side view here. And as you can see, this is the I guess the package that doesn't have the roof rails right here. So we have on the front view, doesn't have this side wing here as well. So this is probably the same car as the rear view right here. But looking at it from a side view, as I said, I really love these propeller wheels. It looks like it's just sucking in or sucking out air, I guess, since it's an EV. They look very EV-ish, which means they're pretty covered up, but at the same time it shows that you can make really cool looking wheels even though it's an EV, and even though they kind of have to be efficient and you have to keep range in mind. You don't just have to, you can do other things than just putting a cap on the wheels, which usually doesn't look that good, but this looks really good. And as I said, these GTS wheels up here, it looks like a proper performance wheels compared to these more EV style wheels. But if you look at the comparison between the Cross Turismo here and the GTS, the biggest difference, of course, with this package right here is the ride heights, which is going to be even emphasized more since we have this black piece here, which makes it look like the whole of the wheel well is actually bigger, and you have less body mass, and this wheel sits in a pretty large opening for the wheel well. It's just graphics, it's playing around with the graphics, and it visually kind of looks like the car is sitting higher than the GTS model just by adding this black graphic right here. Just quickly want to just show you the beautiful lines of this GTS model up here. We have a stretched out line here, and then it goes into this typical 911 Porsche hip here without any sharp lines up there, because if you put sharp lines right here on a Porsche, it's not in line with any of the Porsche DNA from the 60s, so you can never have a sharp line right here on the Porsche. It's always supposed to be very smooth hips in the rear end, and that suits this wagon shape so well. In addition, with this, of course, key line down here, as we talked about in the rear view, stretching into the bumper here as well. And you also have, of course, this line here creating another sharp line that goes into the outlet right there. It's just a beautiful design and approach to how you can design an electric wagon. And the thing is about this wagon here, as I said, this is kind of Porsche would be the last company that I would think about coming out with an electric wagon before everybody else. What my hope is for this type of car is that it's going to show people, specifically here in the US, that you can have alternatives to boring crossovers, because we have so many crossovers right now. So I hope that people are going to see this wagon, and it's going to reignite the passion that we used to have here in the US for wagons back in the, I guess, 70s and 80s, and kind of reignite that, get the sales of wagons kind of going into the sales of taking some market space or market shares from the crossover sales. And if this car looks this good on pictures, I just can't wait to see this out on the streets.